So all of you would have heard about data science, big data, and these terms. These are used a lot for businesses, be retail, telecom, manufacturing, and a lot of other things. So I will be sharing some of my experiences while I was working at Niti Aayog on how you can use data science and big data for public good and for improving governance. And just for the sake of it, people who might not know, Niti Aayog is the premier policy think tank of the government of India, where I was there heading the data analytics cell for the last few years. And the things that I'll be sharing in my talk are a lot of the experiences and inspirations that I got during that time. Starting from that, what we talk about, what is the challenge? What is the challenge that we are trying to tackle? So when we talk about the policy-making process, as you can see, we start with a problem, maybe say problem of say malnutrition or problem of not good education level of kids in schools. We start with the problem. We then try to talk to various experts in the field and try to understand what are the reasons for the problem, and then try and frame some policies or some solutions to the problem. Once you form a solution, like say people might have heard about the draft education bill now that is going around. Say like you form a bill, and then that bill is like an idea that has been floated with various people, and then till the time it then gets passed in the parliament or the cabinet or something at that level when the government approves it, and that comes the policy acceptance phase that you see. After policy acceptance, so you can have a policy acceptance, like we want to do a lot of things in India, but we don't have money for them, and that is when comes the phase about provisioning of means for a policy. Like you then allocate so much amount of money to implement the things that you have mentioned in your policy, and then you go on and implement it and evaluate it. Often this process takes a long time, and long time can be really long. It can be like 5 to 10 years. And so what happens because of these long delays is that it becomes very difficult to make people accountable if something doesn't work. People just tell that, okay, the last step was not done very properly, so you cannot, we are not at blame. The implementation is not a problem because the policy formulation was wrong. And this is something that has been going on in India for years. So last 70 years we have been seeing that. So what can we change? So what we can change here is that we can do an evaluation and feedback at a much more faster pace. At every phase we can do evaluation and get a feedback. How can we do that? Here comes some of the aspects that I was driving at Niti Aayog, and Niti Aayog has been leading on this front, where we have come up with, say, if you take like health as a subject, the top 7 boxes, we come to know about the status of health in the country every 10 years. Through a survey, I don't know if you know about it, it's called the National Family and Health Survey. The third round of it was done in 2004 and 5, and the next round was done in 2015 and 16. After an interval of 10 years, we come to know what is the status of health across districts and states and the country of India. You might get simple things like, say, maternal mortality rate and those sort of things at a yearly level, but the real indicators about how people are disease prone, how are they doing on various aspects, you only come to know at 10 years. So that becomes very easy for policymakers, politicians to just promise anything and just go away, because they know that they will be evaluated. By that time they would have gone into like 2 assembly elections with the past. So they are not at all answerable for any of those things. So what we are trying to bring in at Niti Aayog here, this is the work at Niti Aayog, what we did was that all the 7 boxes that you see are evaluated on a yearly manner. So we do an indexing of the states on a yearly manner, be it the health or the education or water. By water we mean like if a certain state has water, how well do they manage it? How well are they managing the irrigation water? How well is the rainwater harvesting happening? And a range of factors around that. Sustainable development goals is very important aspects, and we are answerable to the international community on that. So we do a state ranking of the sustainable development goals, about all the 16 sustainable development goals, and see how well each of them is doing. Things about digital transformation is very important, because the more digital transformation and digitization is there will be lesser corruption in the society. You don't have to go to many officers. That's also very important steps. So all of these are there. Innovation is very important to sustain businesses and things of that nature. So a lot of these state level indexes are the 7 ones that you see on the top. often we see that there are certain states which are performing very well or on an average level, but there are districts within that state which are not really performing. And if India as a whole has to develop as a country, each district needs to champion and grow at a fast pace. So what we are now doing is that we are doing a ranking of three major aspects. The district hospitals are being ranked and put a grade about how they are performing the district hospital. You hear a lot of stories about district hospitals, and this is to bring them into order, whether they are functioning or not. Municipal bodies who are in charge of keeping track of how the citizens live in a certain municipality or a civic body and how they are performing. Are they collecting their taxes on time and things of that nature? Then ease of living is another important thing. How livable is a particular district? Based on several indicators, and that is something I'll just show you. So all of this have culminated into a program which is called the Aspirational Districts program, which has been going on for the last 2 years. It's a flagship program where we have taken all the districts of the country, have ranked them, and we have chosen the bottom 115 districts to have a targeted program for the next 4 and 5 years to evaluate them. All this evaluation and ranking that you see was happening till now at a yearly level. When we go to the Aspirational Districts program, and this is the dashboard of the Aspirational Districts program, you can see by Champions of Change is the website name. You can see an evaluation of the districts are done at a monthly level. Like you're comparing the results of how the district was performing in December and then how it is performing in January. So the district collectors, the officials who are there have to work. They don't have anything. And then this thing is out in the open, out for the citizens and media. See, politicians will pay importance to aspects like health and nutrition, education, water, basic infrastructure, only the citizens demand. Today the citizens are not demanding because there is no evaluation happening. The journalists are not aware of these things. So all this is an effort to make the citizens more aware and demand on developmental issues and not on other issues. So these are steps towards, and you can see there's the ranking of the districts and in that month and what the delta ranking, and this is something that is happening on a monthly basis there. This sort of thing of real-time governance is not a new thing, and this was first started in India by Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, what we called as the CM dashboard, where several aspects of the state was put in real time. This has some of the aspects like, say, what is the status of CM's relief fund and things of those nature, which are more like money coming in, and you get to see on a real time the status of those things. But it also includes a lot of simple things like, say, if you have like 1,000 street lights in the whole state, in last night, how many of the street lights were on, how many were not functional, and how many functioned? Just if you get a simple statistics of this nature, you know which ones are not functioning, and you know who was the officer who was supposed to put them in place and to rectify them. And it gives a very good indicator about doing your governance on a day-to-day basis, because often there is lack of data. So my philosophy is that we want more real-time data that we have, we can change the governance in India and we can make the officers accountable. And this is all efforts towards that. What I showed you till now are like efforts that have been made by the government by trying to collect data from the ground. But then what I'm now coming to is that there are a lot of data lying around us. Like, say, you are making a phone call, there is a lot of mobile data being collected there, which is called the call data records. You are going to a big bazaar or in a retail store like More or Reliance Fresh, you are doing some transactions, a lot of retail data has been collected. You are doing shopping in Flipkart or Amazon, a lot of online data has been generated. How can we use this secondary data, which has for public good and for improving governance? That was the next area, and this is what there was the effort in collecting the data still is, because you have to do some of the data collection on a monthly or a quarterly or a yearly basis to collect this data. But now this data has been collected every minute and every second based on businesses that are running. How can we get access to this data and use it for social good? So I give you some of the use cases based on that. The first use case is the Uttarakhand Kedarnath disaster that happened in 2013, and it's good that people know about it because there was a recent movie on it just this year. So the very fact was that this was the worst disaster that happened in Uttarakhand in about 100 years. The moment that the disaster happened, there was about more than 100 bodies like the military, the paramilitary, 100 of NGOs and people, various groups coming there and trying to save the people and rescue people there. But the one big question that was there in everyone's mind that they couldn't answer was that how many people were there on the day of the incident, how many have we still rescued, and how many are still left? you couldn't have done that, because now, once the incident has happened, even to go there was a challenge. How can you get this data? And without this data, whether you need to increase your effort, decrease your effort, you didn't have any clue of doing all of this. There was a lot of media, and all the media houses were helping there, and that is where big data came in to rescue. Like, what we did was, this is a task that I did when I was in 2013 in a corporate. I was working there, and we helped the government of Uttarakhand helped in this study. What we did was that we collected all the mobile phone record in the affected zone of Kedarnath on the day of the incident. So this gave us the first list of people who were there in the affected zone. So this is our target set that we had to now follow. And then the records of all these people were then tracked for the next 10 days. You got the records, whether if the phone has become activated from another zone outside the danger zone, then there was a call center which was put in place, who would call them and find out whether they have gotten a rescue zone or they are still in some camp trying to get to their home location and things of that nature, whether their family members are safe or not, and things of those nature. And by about 10 days, following the mobile phone records of all the people across all the telecom operators for 10 days, we could get about 99.5% of the people whom we knew had gone to safety there. So this shows the power of the data which is lying around, not been done anything with it, but can give enormous value. And there is a lot of such use cases that I will be talking about. There was a study done, people migrate from one place to another, which is a very known fact, like people migrating from say Bihar to Delhi, or from Bengal to Bangalore for IT jobs, and then migration is happening all through. And then we only get to know the status of migration every 10 years when the census is done. There is no other credible data on the migration. And this was an interesting study that was done in the economic census, where they looked at the unreserved train ticket data and tried to see when is the migration happening. And migration is a very seasonal thing. You can see during the agricultural month, there are lesser number of people traveling as compared to say when they have no work. Maybe in the non-agricultural month, people are coming to the big cities in search of work. So this is a trend that we need to study, because then based on that, a lot of policies need to be framed about when the training needs to be given to these people, when different things have to be arranged, and a range of things. So migration is again a very interesting thing, but very difficult to measure based on any survey or data. So this gives a very indirect data. All IRCTC and train booking data is lying with the railway ministries. You can just easily access this data and then form it. The next was again economic census did this. So we looked at the property tax collection data. So what they looked into two cities, Bangalore and Jaipur. They looked at the total build-up area in these two cities, and the total build-up area, including the high rises, gave a very good indication about the total number of houses from which tax can be collected. And then they mapped this data with the BBMP data, the Bangalore municipalities data, to see how much actual tax has been collected. So one is the satellite imagery giving you a high-level view of total how many properties that should pay tax, and then on the other hand you are getting how much is tax has been collected. In no time you can match this data and find out what is the effectiveness of each municipality bodies across the country. Very simple data. And it's immensely powerful. Satellite data is even like freely available. You can just do it anytime you want. So there are a lot of other use cases of satellite data that is there, like say you can find out that exact time when to sow a crop and when not to. Finding out about forest covers is a very interesting thing. If you want to find out what is the forest cover across forests, it's a very daunting task. You have to go in the jungles and send hundreds of people to do it, but with forest covers, with satellite imagery, you can do it in no time, in a very easy way. Finding out whether coastal zones are depleting or not is a very important use case that is doing. A very interesting use case has been come up with about Ganga cleaning. So this is a startup from IIT Roorkee which has tried is that they are flying a drone. The drone detects where in various places of Ganga there is dirt, and this robot just goes there automatically and collects the dirt and brings it back to the shore without any human intervention. So technology and data can work wonders in governance and make life. These are difficult problems to be done by people. And technology and data can help in a big way in solving some of these problems. These are a lot of the use cases from India, but then there are a lot of use cases which are not been tried in India yet. So this is a picture about the Colombo city. The red is the Colombo in Sri Lanka, and these are the neighboring areas of from where the people come to work in the city. So this is a study that was done in Sri Lanka by taking the mobile phone records of all the people of Sri Lanka who are coming, and you can see, like during the midday when people come to work, the density of people coming from this area, like the deeper blue means that there are more people from the area who has come out, so there are less dense people as compared to the normal, and this is becoming more red, means more people are coming to the central business district to work. And it's again decreasing during the day. You see a completely different trend during the weekends because people are not going for work on that day. Very important and useful data for city planners and urban planners to plan how to plan your traffic routes and things of those nature. Again, another example from Sri Lanka, because they got access to this data. A new highway was built, and then how that reduced the traffic time. Even if it was a paid highway, there was reduction in the overall congestion. The travel time dropped drastically for the people. The average speed in which the cars were traveling increased immensely. And there were a lot of Indian cities where the biggest problem is traffic. Like this sort of solutions can help very easily understanding which all areas you should build underpass, which all areas you should build flyovers and things of those nature. Such use cases are very, very interesting, but the very challenge is that in India we do not have a regulation about collecting private data, like say lying with people. The previous use case where you saw was the national disaster use case. In national disaster use case, you have to give data, like when the government tells. But in such use cases, we are still framing the law. So through a data privacy law, which has been discussed now in the government, we'll have some of those indications possibly to use some of these things. Now I want to share one of my thoughts which I got during working at Niti Aayog and interactions with the government is building an accountability platform. We as citizens, we always expect everything the government is accountable, but we as citizens take very little of our ownerships into it, and that is where the problem lies. We have to play an active part in it. So how can we play an active part in doing that? So in India we have a range of helpline numbers that you see, like for police we have something, we have something for fire, something for women helpline, something for child helpline, something for ambulances, and a range of different areas, all going to government offices or government helpline numbers, and they are trying to tackle with them, and they have capacity problem and things of those nature. On the other hand, you have range of other people, maybe say NGOs, who are not getting enough work, they are not getting the proper information. So what I'm proposing is to have a common interface. This common interface will be either through an app or through a call center where you can call in and report your problem, whatever is there. It can be about a drain not working, there is a pothole or something of that nature. Any problem can be given. The users who will use this app, or if they are using the call or making a call, it will be linked to the telecom provider, so the user is verified. So you are ensured that you don't get fake calls, and there should be regulation that if you are making a fake calls, then your number will be barred for next 3 months or something of the nature, so that people do not misuse this. Because in India, that's the biggest fear often you have. We have a lot of people lying around, not have any work to do. So another thing is that the location from where the problem is located can be geotagged. That's such an important thing that is to be there, so that the help can be reached there very quickly. Instead of broadcasting the information just to say police or the government officials, broadcast the news to the NGOs, because they can possibly reach, or say influential citizens in their area who can possibly provide more help in time rather than say the police coming from a longer way. Journalists, there are effective journalists, and then you also have to keep track of the people to whom you have broadcasted the information, so that they can come and help for this cause. Once the problem is reported, immediately you also know the accountability metrics for this problem. If it's a road problem, you know who is the officer who is accountable for this problem. You know who is the MP, who is the MLA, who is the district collector, or the panchayat chief, and the person in charge for that. So the accountability matrix has to be there, so that the journalist and the media can put pressure on them if the issue is not solved after a certain time. They have to be answerable. Today they are not answerable because no one knows who reports the issues. It is not there on a public platform, so this gives to them. This helps in that cause. Citizen feedback is very important. Once if an NGO solves the problem instead of the government, the NGO should get a 5-star rating, and they should tell that this is a good NGO working there. Currently, we all work on perceptions. This NGO might be funded by so-and-so organization, so it is good. We do not have any real data. So we are talking about data, generating data from the users to change this. This will lead to a real-time rating over time. So when the election time comes, the politicians don't have to come and ask you for votes. You can see this is what you have performed in the last 5 years. Even if you are in opposition or your officers get a real-time evaluation, and that can then be linked to their performances. So everything is there. You get a real-time evaluation of all the people on the ground, whether it be NGO, the government official, the police officers, and everyone. And this can also help the citizens to play a more participative role in the governance of the country. This is my idea. I am hoping that this can be implemented at some point in time. Thank you.